Chapter 4 Party Crashing. They all walk over to the guest room, peering down the stairs along the way, their fear now mounting considerably, especially now that the tops of the waves can reach the second floor and rock the house more intensely. Karen's father stands in the coffin, holding a copy of Walden and his first authentic scrimshaw piece made of a sperm whale tooth. No matter how bad the storm should become, do not return for me, he instructs calmly, his voice, although strong, barely audible beneath a gust shaking the house. Karen breaks down crying and lunges to embrace him. We'll be opening this back up in a couple of hours, Dad, I promise, she urges, her feeling of guilt now surfacing. Be strong, Karen, he advises, hugging her and amazing her that he remembered her name. Farewell, friends. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves, and immortality. At that, he lay down in the coffin, ready to end his final chapter in this reality. Joe and Bob, hesitant to do the deed, at Karen's father's urging, finally do it, placing the top flush with the rest and hammering nails around the edges, the sounds of the strikes competing with the array of sounds coming from outside. Karen cries, fearing that this may be the final moment she has alive with her father and feeling responsible for anything that might happen to him. I need a drink, Joe says as he finishes hammering in his final nail. Patty, Joe, and Bob all return to the master bedroom while Karen takes another couple of minutes to sit silently with her father and say goodbye. Eventually, waves begin to batter the second floor sliding glass doors like the relentless lashings of a great white whale, rocking the house intensely and letting inside more and more water, leading everyone to realize that they may have indeed made the wrong decision about throwing this party. The two couples sit silently, now at a loss for words. Does anyone have rec of the Edmund Fitzgerald on their phones? Bob eventually asks everyone, attempting to break the very somber mood. How the fuck could you joke right now, you prick, when we're here because of you? Karen angrily lashes out at him, her hands trembling, as if releasing years of unresolved suppressed anger at his affairs among other things, realizing that this could be her final moment to let him know that she knows. I'm just trying to lighten the mood, Bob replies, surprised, and Patty and Joe both squirm in discomfort. Karen cannot hold back the suppressed anger any longer, letting it all flow. Oh, like I had to lighten the mood for the kids all the nights you were sleeping with young tramps, and they were sad when you weren't there? Bob has a look of shock, and Patty and Joe both give each other awkward glances. You knew? Bob asks after a brief shocked silence replete with roaring gusts and water splashing the upstairs wall. Karen lets out a guffaw as tears run down her face. You were that oblivious. Those times you said you were with Bill, but Kathy later told me he was with her. Those times when you'd have to take a call and leave the room and then just abruptly leave for hours? Come on, Bob. Why didn't you ever confront me? Bob asks hesitantly, clearly unsure as to what to say, annoying Karen that it was up to her to talk to him about it. How could I? And risk ruining our family and losing you? She breaks down sobbing, and Bob pulls her close to him. Did you ever even feel guilty? She asks, tearfully looking up from his armpit. That's why I stopped, Bob responds reflexively, pulling her even closer. You know they never meant anything to me. I've always wanted to spend my life with you. The catharsis of decades of suppressed feelings now abating some, Karen calms a bit, affirming, yeah, that's also why I never said anything. Part of me knew, but it hurt. I wish we could have talked about this earlier, Bob half-heartedly claims. I've wanted to bring it up before, but then we retired and things seemed good. But you made a stupid-ass decision today, Karen cannot help but make him aware of that. We had a good run, didn't we? Bob states, the closest he will come to admitting he was wrong, and it's not over yet. The two couples quietly hold one another as each new wave batters the upstairs wall, Joe and Patty on the bed and Karen and Bob on the couch. More and more water flows around the sides of the sliding glass doors, and the house shakes more intensely with each wave. "O Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name," Patty whispers. Karen and Bob once would have found such a behavior to be absurd and selfish, as if God listens to me. But in these moments of impending doom, they sympathize and even hope for an afterlife. Karen now pleads internally like Antonius Block in Bergman's Seventh Seal after losing his game of chess with death. She also feels ashamed at having made what some would call a Darwin Award-worthy decision, though no one there is a stupid person, all of them just victims of letting the wrong feelings drive their decisions. Karen thinks there will be a news story about them. Florida men, out of a desire to have a hurricane party, convinced their wives to stay on Fort Myers Beach during a Category 5 storm, and all perish. Within minutes, the house creaks very loudly like a wooden galleon, the couples clinging even tighter to one another. Suddenly, the Rachel's Gulf side gives out, plummeting that side of the second story into the water. Remnants of the walls down below still prop it up slightly, creating a sort of large lean-to, with much of the lower side submerged, taking beatings from the wave. The bed slides down, pinning Patty and Joe underwater against the wall. At the same instant, the couch slides down into the water and hits the wall, Karen falling onto Bob, but both making it through mainly unscathed. Due to slivers of a light breaking through the openings in the wall into the otherwise dark room, the candles now extinguished, Karen and Bob see the other couple submerged and seemingly unconscious. Karen screams. "There's nothing we can do for them. We have to get to the roof," Bob instructs as they, with water up their legs, stumblingly struggle to cross the slanted room to the window, Bob eventually helping Karen climb onto the slanted, largely submerged bed in front of the window. He opens the window and winds up the storm shutter, letting in more light, enough to see blood where Patty and Joe are. Karen has difficulty due to her MS, but, with Bob's help, climbs out the window and grasps onto the roof's edge. At once, the weight of the second story and the current have become too much, and the other side of the Rachel groans and gives out, pulling Karen into the water and submerging Bob entirely. With one mighty effort, Bob digs his feet into the bed and pushes Karen up enough for her to pull herself onto the roof as another wave strikes the Rachel and the current begins to nudge the floundering house slowly across the island. Karen lays flat, crying out for Bob, feeling her skin ripple from the wind's fury. The rain feeling like razors against her skin, she curls into a fetal position and cries. Within moments, she hears, "Karen, help me," from down below and crawls over, only to see a large wave pull Bob away from the house. He swims quickly, almost making it to the edge before another powerful wave, like an orca toying with a seal struggling in vain to return to a patch of ice, pulls him away again. "No, Bob!" Karen yells and pounds her hands against the roof as she watches each passing wave pull Bob further and further away until she can no longer hear his cries. She curls into a fetal position once again in an unsuccessful attempt to shield herself from the whipping winds and sharp rain, feeling the house now move along more steadily, the current and the waves pushing it. Delirious with regret, anger, grief, and shame, and truly miserable due to her exposure to the elements, she experiences the roar overhead draw her into a sort of trance, her life flashing before her eyes. Memories flood in, happy times, arguments, moments of love and regret, childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, all as vivid as when they were first experienced. A strong gust, a sharp lashing of rain, and the rocking of the house as waves crash into it eventually break her trance, and she witnesses her situation unchanged, peering out onto an apocalyptic seascape with waves washing over entire palm trees, leaving only the fronds, reaching up like arms to God for salvation, visible in their crests as they unwaveringly roll past. Despite her current desperate situation, Karen finds herself with the clearest mind she has had all day, realizing now that she can only surrender to this greater force at this point and regroup alone afterward, if she can even make it. She had the chance to escape as recently as a few hours ago, but now she can only wait for the storm to end and hope what remains of the house beneath her stays intact. Hopefully, her father somehow survived in an air pocket beneath her, but she doubts it, as the collapsing of the house most likely killed him, and maybe Bob caught onto something floating. Patty and Joe drowned if they even survived colliding with the wall and the bed crushing them. Her mind rushes with reflections about today. Had she been as assertive with Bob as she is on Facebook with Trump supporters, she would be perfectly safe right now with Bob and her father. If she can survive this still raging torrent, Karen will certainly approach life with a different mindset, with less judgment toward other people's decisions, no longer thinking of Patty and Joe as two dumb Trumpers, but as two living and breathing human beings, not too different from Bob and herself, with strengths and weaknesses, who could just as easily be up here now instead of her. She wants to reconnect with family and friends she has cut off for political reasons, if they will even talk to her, considering some of the things she has said and assumptions she has made. She will listen now and give them space to express themselves. If she can make it through, she might even go down to Bolivia to visit Ben, only after first staying up north for a little while with family and friends. How stupid we all were to spend any time during this storm gumming off about politics, as if everything would go on as usual, as if any of it mattered compared to what was happening outside, she thinks, while curled into a ball, shivering cold amidst the gusts. At least this experience has led to some realizations. Now she must survive to apply them. With no end in sight, and absolutely nothing certain, Karen reckons herself safer here on the roof than in any one of her father's coffins, the mighty waves still furiously battering the Rachel's wreckage before rolling on as they have for thousands of years and will for thousands more still.